We're reaching out via Zoom to Small Business Australia. Bill Lang is the director there, and these are still very difficult times because, as we know, in Victoria especially, small business taking a further hit. There's a further 4-week extension to the lockdown, which has made it incredibly difficult. And I suppose getting and keeping a positive message for all your members must be extraordinarily hard.
Yeah, look, George, small business owners are a pretty resilient mob, but changing goalposts, mixed messaging, yo-yo up and down, a little bit of teasing here, a bit of teasing there, and when we just don't get the full picture. We need the full picture on the overall health of what's going on with all Victorians, not just those, dealing with COVID. We need to know, how many positive cases could Victoria actually handle when a third wave comes, when the third wave comes. And the back of the envelope looks like that's probably somewhere between 10 and 20,000 positive Victorians. The health system can actually cope with that because we've got all the ventilators. Then the third thing that we really want to see the government be more open with us about is what tracing technology are they using? How does it all work? So we have the confidence that as little outbreaks happen here and there, they can get on top of it. But the bottom line is we need to be open. We need to get living with this virus. We'll be able to do it. New South Wales is now months ahead of us, in no worse situation in terms of number of cases and things. We've got to get on with it, George. We've got to be open.
What are the other states saying? What are your other members? Can they believe what's happening in Victoria?
Oh, look, they do find it quite unbelievable. Like, there are some that are in certain industries, in certain locations of a certain size that are struggling. So you're in tourism, accommodation, retail businesses on some of the borders, particularly sort of the Gold Coast, New South Wales border there. And in far north Queensland, there are thousands of small businesses really struggling up there. Even though there's no lockdown, their core customers can't get to them, so they're in a lot of trouble. Businesses that just rely on local customers that have got a job coming in and buying the things, they're sort of doing okay. Still lots of issues with any business that's relied upon international tourists and international students. But there is no doubt the most critical place in the world for small business is Melbourne, and they have an extended definition of Melbourne here in Victoria. That also includes the Mornington Peninsula, all the way down through Frankston and Rye and Rosebud, 5 million odd people and, 500,000 small businesses, on the verge.
Bill, the toughest thing I can imagine for any small business is whether they're open or closed, it's the fixed business costs that they have to incur each and every day. How in heaven's name are they going to get through this if there's no leeway, no forgiveness, no waiving? And I'm not talking about deferring it, I'm talking about waiving. This is a once in a century challenge. Surely everyone is coming to the party. Are you hearing the right sort of messaging important from banks? I notice that the government is very keen now to try and get the banks to be a little more open, a little bit more reflective in some of their thinking. And the landlords, I think you touched on last time, one of the key points is the landlords have got to give small business and retailers a chance, because it can't be as it was before, because we aren't like that. And post-COVID, it's going to be even harder. I don't think it's going to be click your fingers and bounce it straight back.
Look, they're great points that you make, George. And the reality is, I think you'll find the overwhelming majority of financiers and landlords are very reasonable and don't really want to see people going out of business. They want to see them survive, and they want to come up with a fair solution as to how the financial pain can be shared. But there will be some situations where the businesses will have to close. Now, what we've been really pushing the federal government, and they've started to make a couple of steps, but there's still a long way to go. I was in fact speaking with a cabinet minister about this morning, is around bankruptcy. Like, no business owner who ends up having to close their business and having outstanding debts should be able to be made legally bankrupt as a result of COVID putting them out of business. There needs to be some adjustments made to those bankruptcy laws, so that is not where things end up. And I think, in the banks that we've been speaking with, they've been reaching out. They've got hundreds of extra people now calling up to understand what's the situation of the small business owner. How can we adjust things? How will the business need to adjust? But there are some businesses that are not going to come back. I believe they're going to be fair. They don't want to all of a sudden have a bunch of people that have to sell up their houses. I know they're looking at more creative ways around how that person might then get another income to minimise the likelihood of that happening. So I do believe they are coming to the party. But one of the big gaps at the moment is the federal government. It has to do something about these bankruptcy laws. And then on the landlord front, that's a state government issue. And we have little confidence that the state government here in Victoria is going to be able to handle the significant number of potential disputes between landlords and very small business owners through their current methodologies and processes. In the same way that they haven't been able to handle tracking and tracing using paper and pencils, they're going to have a lot of trouble thinking that VCAT and all of those other bodies in their normal sort of way are going to actually be able to solve the problem.
Bill Lang, I detect from that that you have very little faith in some of the messaging that's coming out of state government in Victoria that says, especially the Premier, he says he's talking to business all the time. Is that what you understand, or is that just another furphy or another mis-selling?
I think to be fair, there are conversations taking place, but talking is very different than listening, right? And just nodding your head up and down is not listening. We would actually see some changes in the way the communications are taking place. Like these daily press conferences are just ridiculous. It's all about feeding the media a particular line that they want to feed out. These numbers, we don't get the same numbers on all the other health issues that are taking place. The people stuck in ICUs that have attempted suicide, who have missed out on their breast screenings. So, they're media management professionals out there, George, and the industry, and as a professional, a media and journalist professional, exactly how they've been playing the game with respect to that. So talking is not listening. There's a lot of talking but actions speak louder than words. And we can just see in the forms of and the levels of supposed small business support that the government has come up with is that they have negligible understanding of those fixed costs that you're talking about, let alone what's going through the minds of many small business owners day by day as more data gets released and more of this and more drama about that. And it's different if you've got a paid job, you're working from home and maybe it's been a little bit tough and can't go to your normal cafe in the city. It's a lot different for the 500,000 people sitting there looking at what their whole financial life has been centered upon their small business. Bill, they need to show us, George. Let's talk. Let's show us the track and tracing. Let's get 60 minutes and 4 corners in there.
Just before I let you go, I cannot leave this conversation without asking you, Christmas is coming. And normally that's the period when young boys and girls, young people start their job careers, start looking at maybe helping a local business. Where are they going to find an opportunity to get a job? Jobs for me is going to be some of the way, some of the answer to help us get through this extraordinary disruption. Can you see any of it? And are they doing anything special?
Look, and to be fair, the federal government, I think, is in the federal budget have done some positive things which will be taken advantage of those businesses that are surviving and will be able to thrive. So providing additional incentives to help underwrite people, actually be in jobs is great. The extra 100,000 apprenticeships and traineeships, very exciting. A lot of people don't realise that traineeships are like a white collar apprentice. So in fact, any small business could hire someone tomorrow, a young person, get them into a traineeship. We call them a digital business cadetship here at Small Business Australia. Get them learning while they're doing their course, working full time for you to help your business get much more digitised. And at the moment, you would be eligible for nearly $28,000 from the federal government towards the first year's salary of that person. So that's very positive. But then there are a lot of businesses and they can't afford to take that risk, George. And that's where we think the federal government actually needs to step in and be an employer of many of these young people in what we call the Australian cadetships. Let's get them geared up working, say, in the environment on land clearing and planting trees. Let's get them working as digital business cadets. But I think we're going to find the federal government will need to step in at some time next year and put a couple of 100,000 of these young people to work in sensible structured programs where they'll learn and where they'll earn. And most importantly, they'll be making a contribution to local businesses, the local community, and to the environment.
And I concur wholeheartedly. It's an exciting idea if we can get it to run out and run its full course and create some of the inertia that we need, or the momentum rather than inertia. the momentum that we need. But the other thing too that's very, very important, it's not just giving them the opportunity to get a job, but we're going to be seeing JobKeeper and some of this government support coming to an end. Then we'll be seeing a different challenge staring us all in the face. And that's what I'm hoping that Small Business Australia can assist with. If there's anything more that we can do for you, please reach out to us. We're talking to Bill Lang from Small Business Australia, who's been fighting hard, especially over the last 4 to 5 months, and especially for those businesses in Victoria that are clamped down and really need some idea of when the doors might be able to swing open. Bill Lang, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks again for the opportunity, George.
No worries.